ever seen something like that? I mean, we're just like, what just happened?
If you want to be great at something, study the people that are the best at what they do.
You know, not just about baseball, but developing them for life. And I guess that's a good similarity.
Like if you leave that to chance, it's not going to happen.
Get going and get it done.
Good afternoon, Louisiana. Have the privilege today of having a great guest in studio. My name is Gordon McKernan. I'm a lawyer and businessman in Baton Rouge and throughout the state. And this is the Garage Podcast coming from the Garage Studio here in Baton Rouge. So, Coach Johnson, welcome.
Awesome to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I want to thank you on a busy day. He never rests or stops. He has a passion, and he pursues it daily. I've witnessed it. I've seen it. And we have recruiting on hand. We have transfer portals. You've got recruits coming in today. We're just a few days removed from the championship and the celebration. So, obviously, congratulations are in order on a great season.
Thank you. Very special team, very worthy champion. And as I say, it didn't just happen overnight. These guys were national championship players and people every day of this year.
Yeah, and I was in a all firm meeting. We try to do it twice a year this morning, and I closed out with an analogy from your two teams to try to demonstrate to my company that 2 years ago, when you look at that and you look at the talent on that roster, you're like, gosh, I mean, you're expected to win it. And something, you have all that talent, things are going really right, and I said, you still have to be single-focused, single-minded, stick to what you know, and you're expected to win it. And then this year, you're still very good talent, but not that type of talent in a lot of respects, especially from a hitting standpoint. And you're not expected to win it. The same principles, whether you have the talent rich or not as talented, you apply and you're successful. And that's what I was trying to tell my crew. Look, you're going to have good projects, good cases, and sometimes not as good, but you still have to be single-minded in doing what you're supposed to do. So would you elaborate on the two teams, compare them a little bit for us?
Yeah, happy to do that. I think when I think about 2023, the opportunity to have 2 years with a large group of those players, I felt like I could help and our staff could help those players reach their potential and maybe play better than they had to the point in their career at LSU before we showed up here. And that's exactly what happened, you know, with the Gavin Dugas, the Cade Belosos, Braden Jobert, even Trey Morgan, Dylan Cruzes of the world. And I felt like we could add the right pieces, to that equation. And you think about Tommy White, Paul Skeens, obviously, Thatcher Hurd, that grouping of players. And they went out and they became one of the best teams in college baseball history and lived to that expectation. This year was unique, because we only had 12 returning players. And then we added 10 players from the transfer portal, a couple junior college players, and then 10 great high school freshmen that will be kind of the next wave and foundation of what we're doing here. And all that collection of talent really became a team. And they executed at a really high level for the entire season.
Yeah, they did. It was a pleasure to watch. So 2 championships in 2 years, right? Or we say this 3 years, Jeff, is it? 3. 2 championships, 3 last year. So 2 championships in 3 years. I know you're not one to rest. When I first got to know you, I was trying to figure you out, and it just basically what it boiled down to is your marriage and baseball was a lot in your family, extended family. But that's it. That's what you're about each and every day of your life. Is that right?
Well, you said single-minded focus.
Right.
And people ask me, how did you get here? How are you successful? I think I basically have picked a lane and stuck to it, and I'm not very exciting, relatively boring, not a ton of hobbies, but I try to be great at what I'm good at, and that's to try to be a good person that helps people achieve their goals in life, and running an elite Division I college baseball program and leading players and programs, and by not getting distracted with much else, it's led to the success that we've had.
So that statement was a little Saban-esque in there. You talked about single-minded focus, but you also talked about developing a person. Not just about baseball, but developing them for life. And I guess that's a good similarity, having known Coach Saban. and that's what I tell people. The only person I've ever met as single-minded focused in life besides you is Coach Saban. You two are a mirror image of each other in your old school. It's all about the process right now, the player, try to develop for life. And when you do all that, you bring together some pretty good teams.
No question about it. One of my heroes. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that with LSU fans anymore, but something that we stole from him, or I stole from him, was kind of his mission was the players are more successful in life because they've been a part of your program.
That's right.
And that's 1,000% something I say to our recruits, I say to our players, and that came directly from Alabama football and Coach Saban. Right. And a lot of the tenets of the program, you mentioned process, and we call it our process of winning.
Right.
I think you have to be able to see the end result of what you're trying to accomplish, but get people to focus on what it takes to get there and not just be distracted by the result.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't think there's any shame in any of us as diehard LSU fans saying, still love Nick Saban. He's the one who launched LSU and somewhat, the university into a different direction, and we're thankful for that. But we're certainly thankful that you embody some of those same things. And someone else I know who's dear to you, another legend, Coach Bertman. I don't know if I told you, but when Coach Bertman first came here, my father and him went to high school together in Florida. And,
wow.
And so when he first came here, one of the first calls he made, and the very first advertisement he put in Alex Box at that time was Go Tigers, Jerry McKernan. My dad wasn't an advertiser. So the very first one. So I have fondness for Coach Bertman. I know you embrace him deeply into the program. Would you tell everybody about that?
Honestly, the best part of being the coach at LSU and coming here and spending the last 4 years here is the relationship that I have with Coach Bertman. I got really good advice, kind of like I was just talking about. If you want to be great at something, study the people that are the best at what they do. And as I was beginning my coaching career, he was at the very end of it.
Right.
But I had studied the way he motivated, built the program, talked about the law of averages, how to win awareness, no transfer of blame, like all these tenets that I learned 25 plus years ago from just studying Coach Bertman have been a part of my coaching career in my life. And I think more than any of that, or the counsel or the guidance, the friendship and the support from somebody of that stature is something I'm very grateful for.
Yeah. My brother-in-law, Dr. Mark Field, has been the baseball team physician for 30 years. And so he's with Coach Bertman. And so I have some inside baseball from what would happen, because he'd ask Mark, come sit in the dugout next to me during the game. And the stories Mark tells of how funny and at the same time intelligent during the game. He's telling a funny joke. He's making fun of something. All of a sudden he makes a shift, does this, and he goes right back to it. Like he's not even paying attention. He's telling Mark about the whatever. He's really unique.
Very special. One of the most intelligent people, aware of his surroundings, aware of the context in which his message is going to be received. Very demanding of his players when he was a coach, and high expectations. And that's the only way you can achieve great things, is through high expectations. And how on it he is with our teams still makes it so fun. Every time I go to have lunch with him and sit at his kitchen table.
And you do that regularly.
Very frequently.
Yes.
He's got the roster out, and we literally go through every single guy.
Still sharp.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, he is. He's one of a kind. And I know we're glad that y'all are so close, and you're relying upon that rich experience and intelligence that he offers a program. I think it's very wise and smart of you, both personally and as a program, to continue to embrace Skip.
Yes, he's special.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the season, then we'll jump to some a little more personal stuff. All right, so mindset of the team coming into Omaha was an interesting bracket, right? And you see what happened, who lost and who didn't make it. And so I want to ask you that as a coach, when you're looking at some elite programs get knocked off and you're going to Omaha and you go, wow, I was expecting maybe Vandy to be here or Texas to be here. And now all these teams that are not there. How do you handle that? What do you communicate to your players now that you're situated? And then they put Arkansas against y'all first game. And that's a they. I don't know who they is, but there's a lot of innuendo that, they didn't want two SEC championship teams in the finals. That's why they did that. So tell me about all that. How does it affect you?
Yeah, for us, in terms of the opponent, it's an absolute core value of the program. It's never about who we play.
I love that.
It's about how we play. And so really who we were playing in the first game, in the bracket, who would come out of the other bracket was completely irrelevant.
Okay.
You're in the College World Series, so you're playing one of the elite teams in the country. But we took an attitude of aggressiveness into the College World Series. So even before we left, we're sitting in the team room before we got on the bus to go to the plane.
Right.
I gave them this visual of like, hey, we're putting our mouthpieces in.
Right.
Like a super aggressive offensive line
I like that.
that is going to dictate the tempo, the flow, the execution of the game. And probably one of the things I'm most proud about our team, especially in Omaha, is we kept our way maybe as other teams were losing theirs, and we capitalized on all those opportunities.
Yeah. No, it was quite an experience to be there. And did you know at some point during the season that this team could be something, could be special? And then what gave you that indication? And then secondly, what did you need to continue to be successful to the degree you were?
I've been asked that a lot, and I don't have a tipping point this year. And the reason I don't is because this team was remarkably consistent. So we started out, I believe, 5-0, and then we lost a game to Nebraska Omaha, mid-major team.
Right.
And I had one of the best players that had ever played for me. We were having a conversation casually before the season. He's like, you'll know what you have after you lose your first game. Well, after our first game, the next game we won 12-1 and rattled off 17 wins in a row and played at an extremely high level. And I believe we were 31-3 at one point. And there was a thought in my mind like, man, maybe these guys are just going to run the table with this thing. And then the SEC became the SEC. And we went to Auburn and got swept by a really, really good team, number 4 national seed. And then the back half of SEC play, we were playing the best teams in the country, and we weren't necessarily playing our best, but we were still finding a way to win.
Right.
And through that stretch, it gave me a lot of optimism about what we could be. And then in the NCAA tournament, that's our time.
Right.
And like I said, you know, maintaining ourselves when everybody else is losing their self and making it about execution and fundamentals and mindset, our team did a phenomenal job of that.
Really did. They really did. So let me ask you, you went to Omaha, I believe, when you were coach at Arizona, and now you've been there twice as the coach at LSU. Tell me the difference for you as a coach when you look out there in Omaha and you see a sea of purple and gold. We were trying to estimate. I was sitting next to Kurt Ainsworth watching the game, which is, I always want to sit next to Kurt.
Yes.
Because the inside scoop that he provides me, you know, it's just phenomenal. Shout out to him, his intelligence, what he's doing. But it was great to watch. But as Kurt was saying, you think it's 98% Tigers here? Is it 95? Is it 96? I mean, it was clearly 95 to 100%. What does that do for you as a coach? Because I think the Tiger faithful needs to hear that matters in that environment, even though they're all playing a high level.
It really matters. And a couple of the best moments of my entire life have been in the 2023 and 2025 College World Series where you're standing on the foul line. They're doing the national anthem, and at the end of the national anthem when they say the home of the brave and it's the home of the Tigers, like I literally get chills hearing that, thinking it, and pretty special. And the finals, it was completely purple and gold, and it was amazing.
Crazy.
I was a little worried the first game, like Arkansas matched us in that first game with fan support. And then as we won and then won again, they started trickling in and had it taken over by those last 2 games. Yeah, it was. And it really, really matters. The way I explain it, it's like Alex Box Stadium stacked on top of each other 3 times when they come to Omaha.
It's something, and any Tiger fan out there, I would encourage you the next time they get back, hopefully this year, get there, get to Omaha, watch it. It's a great experience. Just good American competition and fun, and just so thankful to be a part of it. I want to talk about that last game just briefly, and it almost got overshadowed in a sense by what happened in the first inning, right? Ever seen something like that? I mean, we're just like, what just happened?
Well, I was ejected earlier this year for arguing balls and strikes, and you're not supposed to do it. Coach Nall is a great coach, and massive.
He's intense, right?
Massive hat tip to Coastal Carolina. They won 56 games this year, had a 26-game winning streak. Easily one of the best teams in America. And I don't still really know what happened. And I've been asked what I thought about it. You can't argue balls and strikes. I don't know what was said. The umpire made an ejection. And the only thing I really paid attention to as the arguing prolonged, I noticed they gave him a multiple game suspension.
Yeah.
So in my head, I went to, wow, if we're playing tomorrow, he's not going to be there.
Right.
And then I completely dismissed it and literally just pretended like he and the other coach were still in the other dugout.
Right.
Because the focus had to stay on the game.
Yeah. I've never, then, the ump falls down, the other coach gets ejected. It was something, it changed at least the feeling in the stands. Like, I don't want to say inevitability, but in a sense, it's like, wow. I'm not asking Chris, I'm like, all right, how important is, what can he do? He said, it's going to matter more as the game goes on, Gordon. Right now, yeah, but as this game goes on, there's going to be some tough calls, and it's
no doubt
it'll be hard. So
no doubt, and the fourth inning where we scored the 4 runs and put ourselves in a good position, had second and third, and they got an out, and then you had a left-hander in a pen, but they had the best pitcher in the country on the mound, and it's like, do you walk that guy? Do you bring in your lefty at that point?
Right.
And they didn't, and Derek singled and for 2 runs, and we ended up winning by 2. And it would have been interesting to see if that would have shifted had Coach Schnall been in the dugout, how they would have handled that situation.
So, and since you brought it up that you were ejected, right? So during that
Twice,
time, when you're put on the island, so to speak, and the coach has to go, you're not allowed to do any sort of communication, calls, anything.
No.
Right? Just you can watch the game. You can stay in the stadium, right?
Yes.
You don't have to leave. And if y'all had lost that game, would he have been able to do practices, or have team meetings that night, just on-field communication and strategy?
Yes, you're just not allowed to be there for the next game if your ejection triggers a suspension by prolonged arguing.
Yeah, I could imagine that's a lonely island to be on when you're ejected and you're watching your team.
Kind of a funny part about that, every time that happens to me, it feels like I've died and I'm sitting there watching my life happen. Right. That's kind of the emotion I get when I'm not.
So have you ever entered the theatrical world where it's like, it's time for me to get ejected? And, because I'm not saying Coach Mulkey has ever planned that, but I'm not saying she hadn't. You ever have, I need to spark something. I need to create something.
One time. And of all the games I have been ejected, we've only come back and actually won once, and that was not the game.
Yeah,
that
so
I
you don't
did
want.
that.
It's not a habit you want to make.
Not a habit. Yes.
All right.
No. I think it's interesting. The old school baseball player would look at it as like, Coach has our back,
right?
And he's fighting for us.
Yeah.
Nowadays, sometimes I wonder if my players wondered, like, man, Coach has really lost his mind.
It's definitely a different time now. They want me to ask you, how do you build a championship culture at LSU? Obviously, you're a top recruiter. It's got to be there in the process. But what else? Talk to us.
Well, I think the recruiting part is about how do you be successful in life. You get as many people around you that are the best at what they do. And that's what recruiting is to me. And I view it like I'm picking my family, you know, and that's that part of it. As far as the culture thing, I try to identify as a program and then year to year what is going to drive success for our team.
Right.
So foundationally, from a program standpoint, we're built around 3 things: fundamentals, competing, and character. Fundamentals, very simply doing common things in a very uncommon way. Right. Throwing strikes, managing the strike zone as a hitter, controlling the ball on defense. Those manifest themselves in one-run games.
Right.
And so kind of we have that old George Washington Carver quote, by doing common things in an uncommon way, you will command the attention of the world.
Okay.
Well, the only time the attention of the world is on college baseball is in the College World Series.
Right.
So by being fundamentally sound, it gives us the best chance to do that. Competing. Any time any fan walks into the box, I want them never to question whether it's more important to LSU or the team in the third base dugout. They have to feel our competitiveness as a team. And then character is the third thing. And that's just your ability to make, man decisions, not boy decisions.
Right, right. So those are your non-negotiables.
Non-negotiables.
In your program.
Yes, sir.
Right. And when you're looking at kids, bringing them in, that's what you're trying to identify.
Yes, sir. And then team to team, everybody's different. You have to identify what's going to be important for that team. And, we were a little short of Omaha last year, and I thought the toughness element needed to be elevated a little bit. And that's just focusing on what your job is, no matter what else is going on. And then the together aspect that we had talked about earlier. So our motto for this year in 2025 was tough and together.
Right. And the 18 and 22-year-old players, that's roughly the age you're dealing with most of the time. Have you noticed a shift in them, say over the last 5 to 7 years? With, I'll throw a little social media in there, and then you've got NIL, and then you've got transfer portals. Tell me and everybody, how is it different? Recruiting, retaining, motivating, coaching today versus 5-7 years ago?
It's definitely different. And all of those things that you mentioned are the dominating factors in why it's different. And I think young people, unless they're coached out of it or led out of it, have a very myopic view of the world. It's only seen through their lens and their eyes. So you have to be just as intentional about teaching how to be a great teammate, making others more important than yourself, and a culture of team over me. Like, if you leave that to chance, it's not going to happen.
Right.
But again, like, we want this to be mutually beneficial relationships for our players. LSU baseball is better because you are a part of it, and you are better because you're a part of LSU baseball.
Okay. So if we were talking to potential recruits out there right now, and you're looking at the whole scope of what the LSU baseball program can do for them versus another competitor, right? Tell them from a infrastructure, support from the administration, the facilities, the fan base, the opportunity, the coaching. Tell them why, and I believe this, why LSU is superior to every other program out there for them.
100%. And I think it's an organizational philosophy that development is the most important thing. We want to develop players to achieve their dream of being major league players someday. Okay. And my belief is, if you do that, and that's where the focus is, and you do that with everybody on your roster, the team success, the winning, the Omaha will take care of itself. So I think it's an organizational philosophy that we are going to prioritize your dream and your situation and your improvement above all else, as long as you are committed to the mission and the goals of the team. And the resources, the fan support, they're unmatched, and they speak for themselves. And LSU is one of one. Something I tell people all the time, I didn't leave Arizona to come to the SEC. I left to come to LSU because I believe there's a difference.
Yeah, and that's everywhere. That starts from the top, from Scott Woodward in the department, going through the department, all the way through your staff, great staff, and to the fan base. In the culture of winning baseball here in Louisiana is just different because of what Skip started, right?
No question about it. And I was at a place I loved. I thought that's where I was going to make my hay, live my life. That was going to be my place. And it took, or the allure of what I thought this was and what could even be more to pull me out of that. And we want that same attraction for the players we're trying to bring there so they can live their dreams.
Right. One more question, and then we'll go a couple more personal things. This Jello shot challenge that you've heard about, that Todd Graves, myself, and some others get a little carried away in. Does that infiltrate at all to the locker room, or to y'all saying, what are those idiots doing over there? I mean, that's just crazy. I mean, how does that play out? You know, we've got Will Helmers type. There's Will. We might bring him in here for a quick second. So, you know, y'all are aware of it? Do y'all laugh at it? You just blow it off? What a bunch of idiots. Or what do you?
Well, I'm a non-drinker. So in 23 when we went, I didn't even know what a Jello shot was. And one thing I know about LSU fans and supporters is they want to win at everything.
Yes.
And they typically have more fun partying than other places.
Oh, yeah.
So, and they're super engaged in LSU baseball. So this is like a match made in heaven, it seems. And probably the biggest slaughter in any competition that there ever could be was to be this Jello shot challenge.
Will, come on up here. Get on camera for us for a second.
Big Willie. What's up, buddy? How you doing, man? Good to see you.
All right, so here we have him. He is in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, you may have seen him driving a Tiger Jeep all around Omaha and creating all sorts of chaos and mischief. Will Helmers was a former player for coach, and it was it 2 years ago when I heard you in the dugout? When was it?
It was 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. So you remember I bought the dugout, and that was a great. It was a good game, by the way. You were like, hey, I want you to stay. Something's different today. You're in the dugout.
Yep,
Yeah, we're playing much better.
Winners win.
Yeah, winners win.
Killers kill.
But before the game, Will was given a pep talk, I'll call it, a speech of sorts. And there was the big huddle of all the guys, and this booming Scottish voice came from the middle of it and was quoting William Wallace from Braveheart. And
Classic.
And then this big, eruption of, yeah, let's go kill him. And he's apparently had torn his shirt off. And I don't remember who I turned to. Someone I said, I think it was Moffitt. And I said, Moffitt, oh, I know him. Yeah. I said, I want to hire this guy because I could see him doing something. So I brought him on board. He is the face, for better or for worse, for Louisiana Loaded, which is a lifestyle brand about Louisiana. I want it to connect the different parts of Louisiana so people would understand it. And this guy likes to hunt, fish, eat, drink, socialize, and that's what we kind of do here in Louisiana. Plus, he's an LSU baseball player, so that's what he's doing, and he's spreading good cheer and goodwill about LSU and LSU baseball and Louisiana all over. So, Will, what was your experience like in Omaha? Maybe a little bit different than coaches.
Definitely different this year than it was 2 years ago when we won it. It was unique for me to see, like the competitive side, getting on the field, all that kind of stuff, and then now as a fan buying Jello shot, they're both. It's awesome. There's nothing like Omaha, as a player and as, a fan. And it was just really unique for me to see, obviously, if I'm in Omaha, the Tigers are winning apparently. Yeah. Same with Coach.
Yeah. So, Will, you were a pitcher. So how would you rate your performance for Louisiana Loaded for those, you were there 12 days. Yeah. And did you pitch a no-hitter? Because I heard some remarkable stats on you and your Jello shots and how many you consumed, and just did a great job up there. How would you rate yourself?
Say no hitter or perfect game.
W.
We won for sure.
You were definitely a winner.
We definitely won.
You had a low ERA.
Yeah, I didn't go all 9, but I was riding high for a while and then started to come down about halfway through. But
there were rumors that maybe you did 30 Jello shots or something in a day.
That was a rumor. It was a true rumor. It is true. There's video evidence of that.
So tell Coach how it's different for you. Just shortly removed from winning it and now being on the outside looking in, and how much. And so maybe the other players know. Look. Hold on to it, because when it's gone, and it's something special. I mean,
Absolutely.
I'm sure. What was the difference for you?
It sucks. It's been hard all year. Like for me, watching through the net, it's different. There's something about being on a team that's so, crucial, and it has been my whole life. I grew up playing baseball, and to kind of just let it go out the window and not be on a team and not have guys around you who are like your brothers. You're not in a locker room all the time. It's different, and it sucks. It's fun to be a fan and buy Jello shots and drink and whatever, but there's nothing like being able to compete on the field with guys that you love and coaches that you love, and it's just it's a totally different scene.
I think that's what you want to hear, Coach, right?
Well, 100%, and I would say Will had a hand in this championship team because of the type of person, the type of teammate, the type of leadership he displayed last year as a great example for players that were there that needed to assume more leadership roles and mature this year. Yeah. And so he definitely had a part in this, and very thankful for this guy. This is my 4th year, and Josh Pearson's the only player that's been here for all 4 years. Well, Will was here for the first 3 years of that. And that group that we sort of came into or inherited is one I will always be thankful for, including Will.
All right. Real quickly, let's just kind of do a popcorn. Popcorn means just quick because I'm keeping you on too long. Key leaders in the locker room this year.
Jared Jones. I think he did a great job of, we had the 2023 National Championship team with real amazing leaders when you talk about Cade Beloso, Gavin Dugas, Dylan Cruz, Paul Skeens. And last year, it was fine. It just wasn't that.
Yeah.
So he saw the differences in those two things and tried to emulate, even though it was out of his comfort zone a little bit, those guys from 2023, and did a great job with it.
Well, I have Jeff Watson, who you know well from my law firm, and close to the program, and we call him the professor for lots of reasons. And I want him to do an attribution of how many home runs and how much better he played when he wore the cleats that I provided for him, the G cleats. It was he'd change out and he'd put them back on, he'd hit a home run, right, Jeff? We really need to track that and see how much better he played in those cleats. I think it'd be a good thing. Let's see. They're asking, what kind of legacy do you hope this championship leaves behind for the future Tigers?
Just how to do it. And it's one thing to be a national champion. It's another thing to be a national champion every single day. Yeah. And other than one weekend at Auburn, the consistency in how this team performed was remarkable. And I'm not just talking about wins and losses, but how they trained, how they practiced, how they were committed to the task at hand. Right. The details was exemplary.
Okay. Funniest or most emotional moment of the year?
Ooh. Yeah, the most emotional moment for me is when we walked off Arkansas to get to the finals. Right. And I remember thinking about Tommy's 2-run homer against Wake Forest that sent us to the championship series, and how at that time I felt something in my body I'd never felt before. And then Jared gets the walk-off hit, and I was like, nobody gets one night like this in their life. And I just got 2 in the last 3 years, and I literally was just in complete disbelief.
Oh, huh? That's good.
That's amazing.
Let's see. Next, what's next for the program? Just continued what you're talking about, the process.
Yeah, and honoring that. And from my chair, or the one I hold myself to, it's really built on 4 things: recruit, develop, win, focusing on what's important now, and then repeating that day after day. And it's a little bit of a challenge, you know, wanting to kind of live in that moment, as Will was talking about it, and that high. But if you don't do a good job in what I call the first inning of the year, which is right now, you don't ever get to that point. So really trying to honor the process of that.
Yeah. And you're actively recruiting today as we speak.
Yes. Yeah. I'm leaving this interview and having a meeting with a pitcher we'd all like to have in the purple and gold.
Well, as I'll do a little plug, and I've asked you to bring him tonight, Court to Table, which is a new pickleball concept. Will was there last night tasting some of the beverages, and would love to host the team.
You're a great pickleball player, aren't you?
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, that was no-brainer.
No. So would love to host the team out there, or any recruits. You just come by and show them what part of the culture here is in Louisiana. And that's where I want to finish up with you. You were born and raised in California, and then you west in Arizona. I know some other place in between. But how is the lifestyle, the culture of South Louisiana, what you're experiencing here, different from California?
A lot.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So I came here with this thought of what Southern hospitality was, and had a really high expectation. And for me, that's just people caring about each other. And it's exceeded that by a billion. Yeah. And it's very aligned with my values. It's very aligned with where I grew up, and just been honored to be here and made some of the best friends that I've ever had, like including you guys. Yeah. And very, very thankful for that.
When you have the Ivan Cabreras and the Richard Lipsys and those type people around 100%. You and supporting your program, it's just going to lift everything, right?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
It's just different. Well, I've kept you over our allotted time, Coach. I want to thank you for taking the time to come by here. We love partnering with you. We love partnering with your kids, and plan to continue to do that. And I want to encourage everyone out there who supports the Tigers and wants to see the continued success, get involved. Right? Get involved in so many ways. You can give your time, you can buy tickets, you can support, you can give dollars to the kids for NIL. So many ways to continue to support the program, because without that support, be it fan support and financial support, you're not sitting here, right?
There's no chance.
No.
And fans, businesses, corporations, like, they have a chance to have the biggest part of ownership in our success than they ever have, and it's important.
Yeah, and it is one thing, because I'm around all the various programs, but the accessibility as a fan that you get to the baseball program and the kids, it's just, and I think it's just different in baseball across country. It's more accessible, right? They're right there. You can see them. They're not in a mask. It's just different. So you do that wonderfully. You give great opportunities for fans to really interact and be a part of the program. So I would encourage all of you, continue to support it. If you haven't supported it, please do it, because we can't keep him winning unless we give you the support you need.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks. That's it. Sorry, I went 4 minutes over. Apologize. Alex, you got 30 minutes like you wanted. Look at Brad Ewing back there. We got Clay Moffitt. Jesse